Okay, let's talk 5e plugin again. We have some new features that were added, and I'd like to showcase that. So we have three main features, and then a couple of things I want to mention that wasn't mentioned in the last demo. So the first feature, previously when we were talking about the character sheet, basically the mini's name needed to match the character sheet's name. So if this character's name is Minx, for example, then there would be a character sheet with Minx in the character sheet name. This is important because that's how the plugin figures out what character sheet to use. Now, the problem with that is if you have a band of goblins like this, the old way, in order to make it work, you'd have two choices. Either all of these goblins would be called goblin, and then you can have one goblin character sheet. Or if you wanted to uniquely identify the goblins, then you would need to make a character sheet for each one of the goblins. That's not really practical. If you have a band of goblins of 5 or 10 goblins, you don't want to be making 10 character sheets, but you probably want to identify them uniquely. So in order to get around that, the latest version of the 5e plugin will, when looking up the character sheet, will look at the mini's name, just like it did before, but if the mini ends in an integer number, it will strip that off. So for example here, I've got goblin 01. So when looking up the character sheet, it's going to take goblin 01, strip off the last integer, so that would be the 01, and basically look up a character sheet called goblin. That way, this can be goblin 1, this can be goblin 2, 3, 4, 5, but I only need to provide one character sheet. Obviously, if one of your goblins had different stats, then you'd give him a slightly different name so that you can provide a separate character sheet for any oddities. But that's how you can now have a band of goblins uniquely identified, but use a common character sheet. Okay, on to part 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 both involve mass operations. So one mass operation is multiple instigators. So basically, instigators are the people who are, or characters that are initiating the action. So we have the option to now select multiple characters and have them perform the same action. And then number 3 will be multiple targets. So you can have one character acting on multiple targets. Now, of course, that technically means that you could have multiple instigators acting on multiple targets. I'd recommend not doing that. That's going to generate a whole bunch of messages, and I haven't even tested whether that will work. So stick to multiple instigators or multiple targets, depending on what you're looking to do. So let's look at multiple instigators. Typically, that would be the GM doing that, because if you're a player, you typically control one mini, maybe 2 if you have a familiar. So you're not likely to be doing mass actions. So let's consider this situation here. We've got a bunch of goblins, and we'd like them to use stealth against the PC character. So in order to do that, you do need to first select one of the creatures that is going to be in this mass operations before you start lassoing. If you do not do that, it won't work properly. So now I can lasso all of the creatures that I want to perform the operation. And now I'm just going to, just like normal, select the operation I want to do. So skills, and they're going to use stealth against the player character. And you can see when we do that, it will generate the results for each one of the instigators. And you can see, because we've got unique names, we know exactly which one it is that passed and which one it is that failed. If we didn't have those unique identifiers, we would have 5 goblins here and we'd have no idea which is which. Okay, so that is mass operations. We have multiple instigators here, and all of them are targeting a single PC here. We can see that in this situation, because it is multiple instigators, it's basically that many separate opposed checks. So that means that both the instigator's role and the opposed role will be different for each one of these cases. Okay, so that is multiple instigators. Now we're going to do the opposite. Now we have this character that is going to try to hide from all of these. I'm using stealth here for both options because stealth is one of the opposed skill checks. I could use anything else, but we'll go with stealth for now. So in order to do a single instigator, multiple targets, I'm going to go into player mode because typically that's what a player would need to do. So I've got my mini selected, and now if I click on any of the non-player characters, the rule set plugin will allow me to mark them for selection. So I can select all of these. My mouse is a little spastic, so okay. And now I will, just like a regular interaction, I'm going to right click here. I'm going to select skills and stealth. And you can see now a similar situation where you're getting an exchange here against each one of the opponents. But in this particular case, because I'm the instigator, I've rolled only once. You can see that in all of the exchanges, my stealth was 11. So it maintained that for each one of these targeted creatures, but the opposing creatures each have a different roll to see if they succeed in beating my stealth. So we can see that again, it identifies uniquely which creature it was and their individual checks, and we've got the usual success or failure. Again, as I said before, these messages are completely configurable, so you can configure these to show different information, but the point is still the same. We have one reaction for each one of these with a constant result for the player, and then individual results for each one of the targets. So that is multiple targets, single instigator. So that's it for the 3 new features. I did want to quickly mention that the menus that you're seeing here are obviously character specific. So different characters will have different options there depending on what's configured. That's probably obvious, but I thought I'd mention it. And you will also note that here we've got different, here we got all the same icons, but if I go into something like spells, we can see that we've got custom icons. So the plugin allows you to provide a custom icon for any of the entries in your radial menu, but if one is not provided, it's going to go and default to the default image. So you can customize as much or as little as you want. And that's about it for today. I know these videos don't have great production quality, but they do have a lot of useful information. So please appease the YouTube algorithm goddess by casting the subscribe spell and then blasting your Eldritch Blast at the like button. It'll really help me out.